to episode number 35 of the Who Am I podcast. This is Brian Dill with the Southside Church of Christ, and we are here to talk about our identity as Christians and what that means in the world in which we live today. And here with me, as always, is the stupendous Jackson Wells.
Hello, hello.
Jackson, school has started.
It has.
And you're helping, or you are teaching a couple classes in the local schools now. How's that going?
It's going well. I'm teaching 2 geometry classes. That's all it is. I go at the beginning of the day, and I teach 2 math classes, and I come here. So, so far, it's pretty good.
Good.
Geometry is my favorite math subject.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
It's a lot of fun so far.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So geometry is your favorite over algebra. I don't know.
Yes.
Algebra always made more sense to me.
Algebra, I struggle with algebra. I used to when I first took algebra, didn't make sense to me. But geometry, it's like, okay, it's shapes. There are rules with the shapes. I can see it. Makes more sense. Algebra, it makes sense now, but I was like, I don't understand why these rules are the rules. It doesn't make any, there wasn't anything for me to visually out of it. And so,
and see, I think that's why, like our brains work differently from each other, and so I'm very numbers oriented, and so that's why, to me, algebra was just super easy. That just made total sense. Geometry, it was just like, I don't get it, but I can memorize the information I need to memorize.
There was one thing, I took geometry my freshman year of high school, and the construction portion where we were having to construct circles and triangles, and there were all these intersections and rules, and you have to use compasses and protractors. That was so much fun to me because it's the hands-on creating something. It was just, I liked it, and so I'm excited about getting to that portion with students, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, that'll be cool. Well, let's get this episode going. Okay, so today, as we start our episode, it's time for, once again, random facts.
Let's go. It's been a while since we've had random facts.
It has, especially just for us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share some random facts with Jackson, and then get to enjoy his reaction.
I'm so excited. I love random facts. You're going to help me with my trivia.
There you go. All right, so number 1, did you know that Australia is wider than the moon?
I did not know that. That's impressive.
I saw that, and I thought, that cannot be possible.
That's crazy.
But then I saw it talking about, so the width of Australia from coast to coast is wider than, speaking of geometry, the diameter of the moon.
The moon.
And I thought, how crazy is that?
Wow.
That also makes me think, man, the moon's kind of small.
The moon is small, and then Australia is huge.
Right? Maybe it's bigger than you think.
Yeah.
I always think of it as this kind of little, island down there.
Australia's weird to me. One of my favorite shows is Married at First Sight Australia, and they've got this. There's something about Australians that is just so interesting.
Okay.
It's like, everybody was obsessed with Americans in the 50s and 60s or whatever. Everybody's obsessed with Australians right now.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've watched this show and I think all Australians are cool.
I'd love to go to Australia sometime. I think it would be a fun place to
you could run into Hugh Jackman. Name a cooler person than Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. I like Hugh Jackman a lot, Okay. All right. Number 2. Did you know that in Switzerland, it is illegal to own one guinea pig?
No, I did not know that, but I know why.
Yeah, I do too.
Guinea pigs need friends.
They do.
It would be cruel and unusual for a guinea pig to be left alone.
That's right, and that's how they deem it cruel animal treatment. Animal abuse or whatever. If you own just one guinea pig, because they're such social creatures that you have to own two. And I knew this. I knew that this was a thing. Not the Switzerland part, but I knew that this about guinea pigs because there was a time when we were thinking about getting Asher a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And as I read about it, it said you have to have at least 2. Otherwise, the one is just going to be miserable.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, how cute is that? On the one hand, it's like, oh, okay, cool. And they actually like, lap time and sitting with you and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, that's really neat. But Dana was not very on board with the guinea pig idea.
My mother would be the same way. It's a giant rat with no tail.
Right.
Guinea pigs are cool though. So in Maine, you've got lobster. I'm sure you can go to a restaurant and they've got the lobster, and you can pick out which lobster you're going to eat.
Sure.
In South America, in some places, they do the same thing, but with guinea pigs. And you can pick out your guinea pig.
Who would eat a guinea pig?
I do not know. I would not.
One, they're too cute to eat. 2, what in the world are you going to eat off of a guinea pig?
It's
there
like
can't
no
be that
bigger
much
than a
meat.
squirrel. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I took a
gross.
class in college and we talked about that. And it was like, no. And they showed us what a cooked guinea pig looks like. So it was not appetizing.
Regular pig, I'm on board.
Oh, yeah.
Barbecue, yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Okay, all right. So last random fact, number 3. Did you know that you are more creative in the shower?
I 100% agree with that.
You agree with this?
Yeah. I have worked my way out of so many arguments in the shower. I've written songs in the shower.
Right. Well, but this is backed up by science.
How?
So it's the hot water.
Okay.
For whatever reason, causes your mind to release dopamine, which is a very positive.
So you're getting high.
You're getting high on hot water. Good grief. No, but and dopamine is one of those natural chemicals in your brain, and so because of that, you are naturally going to be able to be more creative while taking a hot shower. The caveat is, at least for me, if I'm halfway awake in the shower, because that's usually
your morning.
That's
shower,
me waking myself up. So I'm not really thinking about anything. At least I don't think I am.
Oh man, that's a good fact. I've recently started carrying around a notebook with me wherever I go. Just a little notebook that I can put in my back pocket.
I bet most everyone at Southside has noticed that.
It has made my life so much better because it helps me remember things.
There you go.
And then if I have an idea, I can write it down, and because I forget so many ideas. I was going through it the other day, and I came across a question that I was like, I wonder what that is. Why do we call TNT TNT? Do you know why? Do you know what TNT stands for?
Thermonuclear. No,
it stands. I think this is what it stands for. Trinitrotoluene.
Okay,
it's all one word.
Yeah,
I really wanted to know that, and I would not have asked myself that question 20 minutes later, but I remembered that it was in my notebook, and so now I just need to find a waterproof notebook.
That's right, so that you can be writing in the shower. So you just sit in the shower with the hot water going over you and write. I need a brainstorming session.
Yeah,
let's head to the shower.
Oh man, I'm just imagining our next elders meeting or something where it's like we got to come up with some ideas. Well,
maybe that's the steam or the
I'm thinking about the old rooms,
saunas or whatever.
Saunas back in ancient times. People would always go to the sauna, and so we're gonna do a retreat at a sauna.
Oh brother, no, hard pass.
Oh me.
All right. So enough of the nonsense, right? So let's talk about what we call the meat of the week. This week we're talking about what I believe is one of the more well-known characters in Scripture, and we're asking the question, am I a Samson? Now, when I was growing up, there was Bible classes focused on Samson, VBS classes focused on Samson, all these things. He's definitely one of those stories that you hear as a kid, much like Noah and the flood and Moses and the Red Sea and all these kinds of things. of all the judges you probably heard about when you were a kid, Samson was definitely the one.
For sure.
Because it was almost always a focus on Samson and Delilah, and she cut his hair, and so they were able to capture him. But then he brought down the temple on the Philistines by pulling apart the pillars or pushing the pillars apart or whatever it was. Yeah. So that's really the only part of the story that I ever heard as a kid, and I thought, wow, he's such this great hero. And yet, as I got older and read more of the story of Samson, I realized that maybe he's not quite as heroic as we were led to believe as children. even though he's in Hebrews 11, his name's listed there. Yeah. But there's definitely some flaws.
Yeah. I don't know a comparable superhero to
okay.
But it's like he's got all of this strength, power, what have you.
Right.
But he doesn't know how to use it until the very end, where like it's at the very end where it finally clicks, and he's like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing." But he kind of, for the most part of his life, seems like a spoiled, entitled brat. Like he just he's jacked. I mean, like probably. Right. We could call this section, instead of meat of the week, we could probably call it hunk of the week, because I mean, when I imagine Samson, I imagine this just Hugh Jackman.
Here we are again. I knew that's where you were going
to go. There was a movie made within the last 7 or 8 years, a Samson movie.
Really?
Yeah, if you're interested in going to see it, and like he's strong, he's able to do all of this stuff, but he still makes so many stupid choices.
Yes, he does.
Judges 14:1-2 is a perfect example of the brattiness, like give me what I want kind of nature that he has.
Okay.
So Judges 14:1-2, this is what it says. Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw one of the daughters of the Philistines. Then he came up and told his father and mother, I saw one of the daughters of the Philistines at Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. Like,
yes.
I saw one that I liked it. Go get me that one, please.
Yes.
Like such a bratty type of behavior.
Oh, for sure. And his parents kind of they try to say, "Hey,
we got relative," which is weird that they said relatives.
Right. Well, they're all Jews. If you trace it back far enough, everybody's related. Okay. 12 tribes, that kind of thing.
There were plenty of Israelites that he could have married.
Yes.
But he didn't. And it was just an unwise, it seemed unwise. Also in the same chapter, it was like, well, this was what God was planning to do. This is why he allowed that to happen. And so regardless, like, if I went up to my mom and dad and said this,
go get me.
Get me
her.
It would be like, what are you doing? You're grown, dude.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of indicative of what we see throughout Samson's life.
Yeah.
At least the examples that we have in Scripture. I mean, we don't have a ton. I mean, his entire story takes up about 3 chapters of the Bible.
Yeah.
But there's just so many times where he just seems to... He's very childish, like you said. He says, "I want that," and doesn't care that it's really not wise.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Yeah,
and then he gets mad and throws temper tantrums, and
Well, like there was the time he made a wager with.
Yes,
the guards.
Well, it was
soldiers.
It was just like, I think maybe other relatives or something, because it's in this same chapter. It's this woman, this Philistine woman that he wants to marry. So they go ahead and finally agree to set it up, and so he's there. The pre-wedding stuff and is going on, and he makes that wager with all these, I guess, wedding party people that are involved in some way with the wedding.
Yeah, and he loses, and then
right,
and then has to go kill a bunch of people.
Well, it doesn't have to kill anybody, but that's the way he handles it. It's like, good grief.
Come on, dude.
Instead of, because he had to go and get 30 coats or something of that nature, and so he just goes and he kills 30 Philistines and takes their coats and then gives them to these guys. It's like, wow, did you not think that there might have been a little easier way to handle that?
Man.
And that whole story, I remember reading that in high school, that portion of it, and it was for a Bible class. And that was one of the times I remember going, what is wrong with Samson? I don't remember this part of the story of Samson.
Yeah.
And the part that got to us, teenagers, parts of the Bible you've never read before that all of a sudden stick in your head, is when he tells the riddle, right? The wager was if they could figure out his riddle. So they figure it out because they pressure his fiance to get the answer from him. And so he gives her the answer, and she goes and gives it to these guys, unbeknownst to Samson. And then
never date a Philistine.
And and so they reveal that they know the answer. And his response is, at least in some probably older version, is, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have figured out my riddle.
You heifer.
And we just were like, what did he say? And so we're all dying laughing that he calls his wife a heifer. We're like, what is that?
Well, I can remember reading Judges as a teenager,
right?
And be like, this is the best book of the Bible.
It is wild. Yes,
there's so much crazy stuff that happens, not just with Samson, but
yeah. And so Samson is very much just this kind of loose cannon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And of course everybody knows about the cutting his hair thing at the end, but that's kind of the penultimate moment of his Nazirite vows being broken.
Right.
Because that's a big part of the story. It's not expressed specifically in the book of Judges, but as you follow his story along, knowing that he's a Nazirite from birth, which is very unusual. Yeah. But he was set apart for God, and so he took these vows, or the parents took the vows for this child. And so there's three things that a Nazirite was forbidden from doing, right? And one, we know that the cutting of the hair.
Yep.
So he had some long hair. Also, they were forbidden from really even going near a dead body, much less touching it.
Yeah.
And then the third big thing was they weren't allowed to drink anything from grapes. They weren't allowed to eat grapes. They weren't allowed to drink grape juice, wine, any of that. And so that was the three vows that they took. And as you read through Judges 14, 15, and 16, you see that two of them very clearly are violated, and the third one is perhaps implied that he violated. He touches a dead body really on multiple occasions.
Yeah, dude was responsible for dead bodies.
Right. Yeah, and so he kills the lion. That was part of the riddle, right? So he kills the lion, and then later goes back and gets honey out of the carcass of the lion.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah,
like, bro, just let it go.
Who needs honey that bad? Unless you're Yogi Bear or something. I don't know. I mean, no, not Pooh Bear, right?
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh.
I wouldn't have corrected you.
And then when he kills those 30 to take their cloaks, he has to take that cloak off of their dead bodies.
Yeah.
So clearly, I mean, multiple examples of violating that one, no question.
Yeah.
And then
the jawbone situation.
Right, the jawbone of the donkey.
That's probably one of the most epic scenes.
Yes.
Just dude kills 1,000 people with the jawbone of a donkey.
Right.
He's using a dead animal's bone to make people dead. So.
Exactly. Yeah. All kinds of violations of that one. The cutting hair, okay, technically it wasn't him cutting his hair, but he was responsible for allowing it to happen, or creating the scenario that allowed Delilah in chapter 16 to eventually cut his hair. And then there's the abstaining from grape-related drinks. He has this enormous feast in chapter 14. Again, back to this wedding with this Philistine fiancé. It says that he had the kind of feast that you would expect from people in that day and time, and historically we know that it would have included wine, grape juice, something of that nature, and to think he would have abstained doesn't really fit the character of Samson that we know. So,
I'm listen. There's 3. I'll kill people. I'm not going to cut my hair, and I'm not going to drink wine, but I will kill people.
Right? I doubt it.
Yeah.
So it seems that Samson was just so determined to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
and didn't care, it seems, at times, about consequences or any of that.
He didn't, and not caring about the consequences for somebody like Samson is very dangerous, because he didn't care about the consequences, and a lot of times, for the most part in his life, nothing bad happened. He was able to get out of it. I need to go get 30 coats. I'll kill 30 people. It's no problem. He was able to get out of those situations until he couldn't.
Right.
And so he's nearing we're nearing the end of the story, right? And Delilah finally figures out, if I just cut his hair, he's gonna, lose his strength, and that's exactly what happens.
Yes.
And he feels it, like he's blinded. He is no longer strong Samson,
right?
And there's nothing that he can do to defend himself. Like, the consequences of his actions are pretty dire.
That's right.
So he was, at the end of his life, like we said earlier, able to be in that great hall with the Philistines, and whether he pushed or pulled, whatever, he killed 3,000 Philistines all at once,
right?
Which was a crazy feat.
Well, and the Bible says that he killed more in his death, because it killed Samson too. He killed more in his death than he did in his lifetime.
Isn't that like again, God uses in mysterious ways, and he definitely used Samson. I would say Samson is the most unconventional judge that there
yes,
is, in the way that
definitely
that God used him. And I don't encourage you to live like Samson.
Right.
I encourage you to make good decisions throughout your life. And I hope that you never find yourself strapped between 2 pillars and like you're having to make that choice.
Right.
But in that last moment of his life, he did make a very selfless choice.
Yes, he did.
And through that, he did what all the judges do and delivered. And so selflessness is a key to godly living.
That's right.
And I'm going to read Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40. This is Jesus. He's being asked, what are the greatest commands? And this is what Jesus says: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets. So we've got loving God. Okay, yeah, I know we should do that. But loving your neighbor, that is a very selfless thing. And,
that's right.
And I was thinking as I was preparing, what are selfless things that we can do, that we can see encourage godly living? And there are some of the simplest things, and we've talked about some of the specific things in previous podcasts, but the one that immediately comes to mind is just helping somebody.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be this huge, grandiose act.
Right.
It can be as simple as bringing a casserole over to somebody who just had a baby because you know that they're going to be up all night.
Right.
That is, what would Jesus do? Kind of,
Sure.
That's godly living. That's serving your neighbor. That's helping somebody out. And it doesn't have to be this large thing. Helping and serving are very similar, but the selflessness of those 2 acts are very godly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that in contrast to that is what we see so much in Samson.
Mm-hmm.
It's Samson saw what he wanted and didn't care.
Yeah.
That it was the wrong decision or the wrong choice or not healthy or unwise or spiritually detrimental to his life or any of that. Well, he just wanted what he wanted.
And it didn't just affect him.
Right.
Like think about
it rarely does, right?
Think about, the people that he's killing needlessly sometimes.
Yes.
Think about his mom and dad who took this Nazirite vow, and everybody's like, you took a Nazirite vow with Samson? Yeah. Why didn't you do that for Junior? Right. And so like his, we can only speculate there, but like it wasn't just the decisions that he made affecting him. It affected everybody. And the same is true for us. If we make selfish decisions, a lot of times it's going to negatively impact people that we love and people that we need to love.
Exactly. So the question is, am I a Samson? Kind of hope not.
Like
in a lot of ways.
That last 5%, yeah.
right. Maybe making that ultimate sacrifice in the end that needed to be made.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's not saying that you have to sacrifice your life always, or anything like that. But being willing to make a sacrifice in order to accomplish God's will.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, do that. But the flip side of that, for most of Samson's life, is maybe think through your choices a little more, and don't be so rash in decision making. Make sure it is godly and wise, rather than just saying, I want that, and that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Well, what else? Any other thoughts from you, Jackson?
What kind of music would Samson listen to? If, obviously dude worked out, what kind of music would it have been?
All I can think about is that stupid
down
song.
With the Sickness.
Yes.
I can just see Samson like he's about to squat,
like
and he's got headphones on, no noise, and then all of a sudden Samson just goes, "Wow!" and then squats 800 pounds.
Or he's headbanging with the big long hair.
Yeah.
It's just going everywhere.
Oh, man.
Why did we go down that road? Oh, good grief. Okay. So I think we just, a lot of people just are thinking, what are these guys doing?
Yeah.
Well, that's one way to wrap up an episode, I guess. Well, we are thoroughly appreciative of all of you who have listened to this week's episode. We are grateful for your attention and your commitment to continuing to grow in your relationship with God and understanding your identity in Jesus. We hope that this week's episode has been helpful in that growth. So we pray you have a blessed week and a wonderful day. Take care.